Hi, everybody. This is 1,168 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And he, didn't just vanish. He is a retaliated whistleblower. This started way before Richard went missing on July 23rd, 2020. And, that date is questionable. Um, so, yeah. No, he was retaliated against severely, continuously, and then he was that's it was a code red, and then they decided to murder him. And this was definitely an institutional code red. I mean, that's what it stands for, and it was an institutional green lit murder because the monies, when you have millions of dollars that is going to cover this up, unlimited funding, absolutely unlimited funding. So that's coming out. We are getting institutional help, and you have to follow the money. And the way that all happened is very interesting. And so we're just waiting for the verifications of all of that. But I'm telling you, it is millions. I can tell you that much. It's millions. So, because of the plane that's involved, because of the people involved, and because this is an ongoing investigation with um, obstruction of justice from the beginning, a denial of due process from the beginning, and lies, just like obstruction, tampering with witnesses, tampering with whistleblowers, tampering with evidence, fabrication of evidence, the hunt for the alibis, to create the alibis, the misinformation smear campaign that was, I guess, lodged on Richard, absolutely through the media, through the PAO, through the whole chain of command, up through uh, generals, the generals. Okay, I'm going to say the four-star generals, because right now the 44 four-star generals, be it General Mealy, be it General McConville, be it General Garrett, have been totally implicated in this case for just their evil deeds, evil, so evil, and more than that, for their stage task force find Richard Halliday, for the cover up, the lack of um, communication and information that's coming to us, and also the obstruction of justice throughout this whole thing, that we have evidence and circumstantial evidence, hard evidence, and also all the irregularities. This is an ongoing case. We have questions that need to be answered. We've been denied those answers. Um, we're getting answers now through 3 years of very, very hard work. Uh, but yet, there is an organized group that is allowed and connected with Fort Bliss military, connected to the uh, whole command structure, that is doing their lying best to try to stop this story from getting out and stop anybody from helping to help. I mean, they've contacted people behind the scenes to tell them lies. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable. But yet, when you know their connections, when you know their connections to prosecutors, when you know their connections with other cases, when you know their connections to the military gravy train, the gravy train that um, a portion of elites have spent decades creating by fear, crime, and legalized theft from the taxpayers through the military industrial complex. Absolutely, and I'm saying a portion, but this is a class war. This is a class warfare. There is a class of people that benefit greatly from the contracts, from the taxes to fund our military. And they want to keep that gravy train going. They love it. Their businesses depend. And this is what Richard, he pulled on a string and he didn't realize that there was a pod on the end of the string. What is a pod? I was talking to a friend, very, very close friend, and I said, I think, he pulled on a string. He didn't realize what kind of whale was on the end of it. She goes, a whale? It was a whole pod of whales. And so, yeah, the pod of whales at the end of the string. He clearly, through his, and I should go to Facebook before I tell you everything that we found out today. Leading in. Yes, it looks like I am on. I am on. Okay. So, yeah, a pod of whales at the end of the string. Uh, clearly he was giving us messages about the illegal drugs that was surrounding him. He told me, Mom, it's just so bad. It is just so bad. And I knew what he meant. And we know that the barracks are uh, grooming zones for drug use, for alcohol use, for sexual harassment, for rape, for young party girls, so young, 14 years old, that are living in the barracks, being prostituted out to the soldiers. And we know from the reports in Sound of Freedom that these children are being prostituted out multiple times a night. So they have hell nights. Hell. Absolute hell. And this is under Ann Ogle. This is under Ann Ogle, who is in charge of the mental health and the health of all children on Fort Bliss, including the emergency intake center that the result of that is 85,000 unaccounted for minors. This is a pod of whales, a pod of whales at the end of the string. And we know that Richard, was very concerned about Belen, about this sexual cult grooming. And, when I found out how old she was, because she had just turned 18 years old when I found out, and this is way after Richard went missing, it was, I understood what Richard was telling me and telling his brothers and his brother and his sisters, because he spoke like in code, because he knew that this was serious. He knew that our daughters of this republic, the culture, had okayed, grown to have this sexualization of our girls and our boys, our male, normalized that nobody cares if you're 17 years old and you're like, okay, I want to be a stripper. I want to be a stripper. Um, that it's normalized and it's like, oh yeah, do it, yeah, do it. And Richard's like, wait a minute, these people, they say they respect you, they say, that they care about you, but they don't, they think bad about you. And the guys, they they don't they don't think good about you, they don't respect you, they're just horny. They just want to see you naked. And for saying that, he was called weird. He was called weird. To try to respect a female today, you're weird. Especially a young mother, because don't forget, at that time, she was a young mother of one. Now she's a young mother of two. And what gets passed down to her children, you see? And Richard, being adopted at the age of 5, was concerned about those kind of things. You know, uh, he was concerned. And, the breakup of a family, the destruction, because, yes, Robert and Richard are brothers, um, but the breakup of the family, uh, the way the orphanage ran. So they had to get to know each other. Here they were brothers, but they had to get to know each other again. They had to be close again, get close again. It's very complicated, and of course, to learn how to be a family, to learn how to. I remember the first thing I was teaching them. I was teaching them the ABC song and some songs that we sing at church, so that when they went to church with us, they would feel comfortable. And I also, like nursery rhymes and short stories like Little Red Hen. And Richard loved the gingerbread man. He loved the ginger, and I got him this stuffed gingerbread man. We still have it. He loved it. He loved that stuffed pillow gingerbread man. Um, and I would say, okay, now it's time to go to bed, and you have to come here and say good night, mom, good night, dad, and give us a kiss and go to bed. That's what you do. That's we're a family. And so you had to teach them how to be a family. It's very, very important to know how to act, to know the protocols, even in a family. So, um, so that was very important to Richard, and to come down for breakfast and say good morning. Good morning. That was very important in our family. I don't know, a lot of people don't care about that, but for our family, it was very important to say good morning, to not be a grump, to not just come and, it was like, God gave us a new day to glorify Him in. And people might make fun of that, but I tell you, it gives you a skip in your walk when even if you don't feel like it. Maybe you are a little sick. Maybe you are a little grumpy. Maybe you had a nightmare that night. But it doesn't matter. Get up, say good morning. Good morning. I'm alive. Okay, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and I'm going to make it. So that was always very important and is important in our family. So for Richard to see Belen so young being groomed into the sex industry and being so disrespected and thinking, this grooming, to think that you are respected when you're absolutely not respected. They're just horny. They just want to see you naked. That's it. They're just horny. And, you know, um, he was very forthcoming, trying to tell him. And so, here he is in this very sick culture, that was created, and I blame the 44 four-star generals and admirals. I absolutely do. I blame them because the military is not like civilian life. If they want to change things, they can do it very quickly. And they could clean up Fort Bliss very quickly. They could clean up Fort Hood, Fort Cavazos. If I was a Cavazos family, I would say, damn it, damn it, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, how'd you get your 3rd star? Look at what you're doing under our name at Fort Hood. You're not making it better. And you have the power to make it better. And you're not. And we have a rape problem. We have a pedophile problem. We have a drug problem. We have a suicide problem. We have a PTSD problem. Under your watch, after you committed crimes against humanity and after you participated in the cover-up of a missing whistleblower that was absolutely CID intern, that absolutely was code red murdered. Code red murdered. Because you came in there and you couldn't clean up Fort Bliss. And now you're over here at Fort Cavazos under my family's name, and you continue this disgraceful leadership. Disgraceful. And you know, the 44 four-star generals and admirals, they could, I mean, very quickly clean up those barracks and, you know, divide the men from the women, because there's like at minimum 9 times more men than the females. No way should you put in that kind of situation where they are so outnumbered and expect no sexual harassment and no rapes. It is a disgrace to all those 44 four-star generals. The problem that we've had and 20 years and more of this rape, sexual assault program that is a total failure. Not one of their programs is a success. Not one. Not the sexual assault program, not the suicide program, nothing under their leadership. So what makes us think that we are force ready? What makes us think that our soldiers can protect the Constitution under this leadership? Because my faith is in our volunteer sons and daughters. But the 44 four-star generals, their leadership, we need a retrenching. I don't know who in that Congressional Arms Committee and Senate Arms Committee approved these losers. They're losers. Look at Major General Eisenhower. His raider is Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. He is actively committing a crime of obstruction of justice in our son's case. And let me tell you how bad it is. Because we got confirmation today from the military police at Fort Bliss that Leilani Hart, convicted criminal, easy peasy to do a background check and see that she's a convicted criminal. She's a convicted criminal, and now we have confirmation that she has over 20 incidences at Fort Bliss reported to the military police. All kinds of stuff, y'all. All kinds, including the assault. Okay? She is a hindrance, a hemshoe. That's what my Oma would call it, a hemshoe. She is a stumbling block. She is a chaotic mess for our military communities, for our force readiness. It is so bad. What she has done to Fort Bliss, what she has done in Hawaii when she was stationed in Hawaii as active duty. And she was also active duty there at Fort Bliss. And also served active duty with Major General Clem Coward when he was a colonel, right? I mean, what in they are so ingrained in Fort Bliss that she gets all that protection, and you have a major general, 2-star general, shaking in his boots, being cornered, having his raider as Sean Bernabe, you know? I mean, the you almost feel sorry for him because he's so cornered because the leadership is so rotten and it's making him rotten, you see? Who makes the generals under him rotten? Who makes the colonels under him rotten? Who makes the lieutenant colonels under them rotten? Who makes the majors rotten? Who makes the captains rotten? Who makes the lieutenants rotten? Who makes the units rotten? And it is a national security threat. Because you have a code red on a distinguished honor graduate who's saying, hey, don't do it. Don't be caught in this sex cult where you have to sell your body at the age of 18 and you're a young mother. And he gets code redded for that. He gets code redded for saying, hey, don't be a pedophile. Look, in Florida today, my daughter sent me this morning, said, Mom, in Florida, you get the death penalty for having sex with underage children. Thank God. Thank God. We have so many. One thing that I've learned by doing all of the research on all of these people with Team Find Richard Halliday is how many pedophiles there are. There are so many sex pedophiles. It's just, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're just ruining the family. And who is bringing this on? It's being brought on by leadership. And it's no excuse for the individual people. But it is true that leadership has to be held accountable. Matter of fact, God will hold them more accountable than the individual person. When you are in a leadership role with 4 stars, you're going to be held more accountable. If you are a judge, you're going to be held more accountable. If you are a doctor, you're going to be held more accountable. If you are a priest, you're going to be held more accountable. If you are a father, you will be held more accountable than a mother. That's not me. That's what God tells us. So there is levels of accountability. And to see the 44 4-star generals serving foreign and domestic enemies instead of defending our Constitution, the land, and the people, and having our service members back, having our service members' health and welfare as their most important mission to get us force ready, Army ready, Air Force ready. You've got to have healthy service members, healthy not only physically but mentally. And they have been working against our service members, so much so that if anyone speaks up against it and say, wait a minute, this is not healthy to have whores and blow in the barracks. This is not healthy to have, these pedophile child porn being made and distributed to our soldiers. Right? What are you going to do about it, General? What are you going to do about it? So, and let's say also who's going to be held more accountable is those congressmen and the senators that sit on these committees that give these absolute criminals stars because they're criminals. I go on TikTok, and there is one right after the other of these commentators about all the crime. That is so damaging to our country. And I've become one of them because it's true. It's true. We are a nation in decline because we have to speak out the truth about what is going on in our military. And that's so damaging to our national security. But yet, we need to speak it out, the truth, because we need to retrench for our national security's sake. Because we have a Trojan horse. We have a Trojan horse in our ranks, in our highest ranks, in our 44 four-star general ranks. That's our Trojan horse. And they do it through regulation. They do it through regulation and thwarting their duty, thwarting their constitutional duty, thwarting their oath of office. That's how they do it. And are they making money? Let's audit them. Are they making money off of these drug sales? Are they making money off of these pedophile groups? Are they making money off of these strip joints? Because not only does Leilani Hart have a history of damaging and putting so much chaos in Hawaii while she's active duty, she also does it on Fort Bliss with over 20 incidences to the MPs, and she's arrested for assault at the chapel, at the Fort Bliss chapel, with multiple people that she assaulted. And we have we have the information. And yet there are still over 20 other incidences. And one of those is the obstruction of justice. One of those, well, there's so many. There's so many because she interfered in our son's case with tampering of evidence, with tampering and intimidating witnesses. A whistleblower. It is, yeah, it makes you stutter. It makes you stutter to see the incompetence of our leadership to not do something about her. Why? Because her husband is in the VA there giving questionable benefits to veterans. Is that how he's paying off? See, it is a moral hazard because people are being overtaxed, overregulated. The small businesses are being attacked. And the way the monopolies are creating the laws, you have a very hard time making it. You know how many people I've looked into, and they've all, so many of them, a huge portion of them have filed for bankruptcy. And so then you say, well, I'll give you some extra benefits because you need them, right? You have to take care of your son and his family because it's really hard. The work, the housing costs, the insurance costs, the car costs, the cost of living, period, is so expensive, and you're trying to help out your kids and everything. So I'll give you some benefits. I'll make you 100%. I'll make you 80%, disabled, or maybe even 100%. If you answer the questions correctly, I'll coach you. But you owe me. You owe me. And you better not talk about Richard Halliday. You better not give your witness testimony for Richard Halliday. I mean, is that what's happening? Because Leilani Hart absolutely is being protected. And she is absolutely being used as the obstruction of justice in our son's case, while tampering and intimidating and harassing and whatnot. And this is not me imagining. This is proof. We have 3 years of proof, 3 years of hard evidence of irregularities and circumstantial evidence that we have been collecting. And now we're getting institutional help. We're getting confirmation from the military police that Leilani Hart has over 20 incidences reported to them. Over. They're like, oh my God. Oh my God. And that's why when I went up to the house with the paralegal, he was shaking. He was so upset because they know that the generals don't have their back. They know that they can issue a code red on them if they don't lockstep to the criminality, to the barracks being groomers of these sexual cults, of disrespecting women, disrespecting men, because of the moral hazard. They're creating moral hazards everywhere, and the Bible calls them stumbling blocks, right? When you put stumbling blocks in front of people, you tempt people. You tempt them to do wrong things. Or you groom them to think that they're being respected for going out there and selling their body and having a less of a life with their children, with their families, not even having a family, right? It destroys the family because then drug use comes in. Drug use, PTSD, thoughts of suicide, these illicit relationships with people that will, manipulate your whole emotions and your feelings because they deal badly with you because all they're thinking about is their horniness, right? That's all they're thinking about. And so they mess with you, they mess with your children. So we've been breeding, we've been cultivating a culture that is a moral hazard. And so you can see the injustice. And so Richard pulled on that string. And that leadership was at the end of it. That leadership of moral hazard was at the end of the string. That's the pod of these whales. The pod of the whales that have developed their business plans on the gravy train at the expense of American taxpayers. So this puts us in danger when you say things like that. But when you look at the end of who is doing this, the monies, the millions of dollars. I don't have millions of dollars to fund prosecutors and pay off bribes and everything like that to cover up crimes like this, to pay for $1 million planes, to pay for pilots to fly and get rid of evidence. I don't have that kind of money. I don't have money to pay, seemingly $175,000 to Sarasota Sheriff's Office to go make a little show, a dog and pony show, in front of the family of a missing soldier to, try to con them into believing that Richard, is a deserter, when we have confirmation from the federal criminal database that Richard was never that. Never that. It has no criminal record at all. None. And that's why his name, his social security number, was envied. And, those people that like to steal identity, that have normalized stealing identity. I mean, that was something shocking that happened at the very beginning, is Richard's identity was stolen very quickly. Very quickly, one of the very first things that happened. And we have confirmation that his social security number has been compromised. So, and why? Because when you have no criminal record, wow, that's really good to, and you have no um, bankruptcies under your name. You can get loans. You can get loans, and you can use that information to your benefit. And these people, I'm telling you, have no problem doing this. None. Nada. They will look at you in your face and say, I'm going to steal your son's identity, okay? That's the situation. And you're like stunned. You're stunned and you're like, what's going on here? What's going on? Okay. Um yeah. So we have Leilani Hart being connected to Dreams Cabaret, the strip joint. We have her connected to CID and owning up to controlling the CID while having over 20 incidences reported on her misbehavior, on her, I don't know how to say it. Her disruptive actions, because that's what they do. And those disruptive actions are like a domino effect. They hurt multiple people. I mean, look at her good friend. What does she do with her good friend? She says, "Oh yeah, my pedophile predator illegal gun toting husband that's having incest, he can watch your kid. He can watch your kid." And then, you come back and, "Oh, wow, your kid was raped in my master bedroom of all places. Wow. Oops. And, shh, until, I'm mad at my husband. And then I, think, okay, on the 22nd of July, 2020, I better put in a notarized criminal complaint, right? 2 years later, I better put in a criminal complaint." I mean, what kind of friend is that? And now look how many people she's hurt. And that's just one incident. She has over 20 incidences. Over 20. And she's being used by Major General Eisenhower. "Oh, my good buddy, Leilani. I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, Leilani. Can I go to Dreams Cafe or Dreams Cabaret, Leilani? Maybe, yeah. Welcome to Fort Bliss, Leilani. Welcome to Fort Bliss. Destroy as many soldiers' lives as you want. I'm just a 2-star general." And, Sean Bernabe, the lieutenant general, the 3-star, is my raider and tells me I better do it. I better let you continue to destroy Fort Bliss. I better let you continue to destroy soldiers' lives and their families' lives, service members, even contractors' lives on Fort Bliss. Because, at the expense of taxpayers. Because, that's our business plan. I mean, that's my opinion of what's happening. Because you would think that Major General Eisenhower would have the backs of his soldiers, that he would want to get answers about Richard Halliday's disappearance and Code Red and all of the evidence that we have provided to him that is still there to give him, that's coming in even more because the veterans now are sick and tired of it. There's only so long that your disability benefits check means something to you. When you have inflation, and if that money doesn't keep up with inflation, it starts losing value too. Right? It starts losing value. The money itself, the meaning of money starts losing value. And when you see other people getting hurt and your life is getting disrupted, then you've had enough. You've had enough. And they're coming forward now. They're coming forward. They're seeing the criminality. They're seeing the children getting hurt. 85. It takes a lot. It took a lot for us to finally undo Roe versus Wade, right? Where they convinced us that dismembering babies is okay, right? And I'm sorry to say that, this is the thing. Richard's my baby, and they dismembered him. It's not okay. It was never okay for me. Never okay. And it took us a long time as a people, as Americans, to say no. And we still have a huge portion of people that don't value humans, that don't value the land. They don't value animals because they might say, oh, yeah, I like my animals, but they are mistreating the animals. If they mistreat humans, they mistreat animals. Bestiality is on the rise, y'all. It's on the rise. And, if you don't value humans, if you don't value countries, if you don't value what people have built, the care of the land, children, and that they are helpless, they're totally helpless. You can totally take advantage of them because they need you. They need you to care for them. And so you can, there has to be an accountability for these monsters that have no self-control, that have no discipline, that have no love for humanity and no love for our children and no love for our service members. And that they're ruled by their business plans and their power, because it's not so much the money, because they know that the money, $33 trillion in debt, can run out, right? Because they love the inflation, because that's another way they rob us. Inflation is a tax. It's a hidden tax. They don't have to pay it. We have to pay it. And so, they know that they can maybe get us with Bitcoin, or they can, and Richard had Bitcoin, right? We haven't talked about that in a while. But they were like, okay, he does not like debt. He wants to invest his money. He likes law enforcement. He wants to protect women and children. He's distinguished honor graduate for his cycle and basic training in AIT. He wants to be someone. He has a vision. Did you see that look in his eyes? He has a vision. He wants to make it on his own. He doesn't want to hang from his parents' strings, because we tried to say, hey, Richard, do not join the military. We'll give you $10,000, start you off at this school. We had picked out a school that we thought was, this is the thing, parents need to get more involved. I don't think I was involved enough. And I was with him every day. So, and I'm not feeling guilty or anything. But we have a culture that I don't think parents are allowed to have a lot, well, I should say a little bit more authority than what they have. I'm not tyrannical. I never really controlled their video, or, I just would tell them, hey, watch out. People are going to try to put some porn in front of you. People are going to try to con you. Watch out. Be aware of all of this. But I did not know the extent of corruption within our government, within our military. Even being part of it for so long, right? I did not know the extent. And We tried. I probably should have offered him more, but he would never have taken it. Um, Rob and I were like, "Come on, go to this school. We don't want you to go to these schools because uh, that's what I'm talking about. Anybody that has lived in dorms and everything. Um, we just we wanted him to be in a place that took life seriously, that wanted to let him aspire to be who he wanted to be. And that is not the military. They want to form you. They want to form you into their criminal cult cabal. And that's why so many of them are PTSD. I really believe that. So that's my opinion. And, because the very last video, he feared for his life, y'all. He was so afraid for his life because they would not let him have his faith. They would not let him have his stand to support young women to be women. Um, to not like having to live in a marketplace for illegal drugs, being flush with weapons. And you see this in the life of Leilani. That was her life, flush with weapons, illegal weapons. Her husband bought weapons illegally. We even know who he bought them from. And, when she tells us everything, this is from her. And we have names because of her telling us in all of her papers. So, um, it's all about getting over on people. It's all about the sex cult. It's all about money, money, money. Putting in that emergency aid for her husband. I want to divorce you, but wait a minute, I want some money. I want some money. Um, I hope this all makes sense. There's some other things I wanted to say that came up today before I read, and it'll come up. But the veteran community now is telling us things because this is their words. Leilani runs her mouth, quote unquote. Leilani runs her mouth. Okay, so yeah, that is okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the illegitimate, the the travel voucher, and the travel voucher is, we believe there's a huge chance, like 99.9% chance, that it was a fabrication of evidence, an intentional fabrication of evidence, which is big crime in a murder case like Richard's, to create an alibi for Dallas Hart. And the reason why is because we've had um, the professionals look at that travel voucher, and it is, I mean, tomorrow I will post the whole breakup of why it is so illegitimate. 99.9999%. um and for an example, one big thing is he took 16 days to put that in. DOD demands you have to put in your travel voucher in 5 days. You have 5 days to do it. So, and they're electronic. They're electronic. You use a CAC card. It moves forward to the verifying um, officer, and even if it's a non-commissioned officer, and they verify it with a CAC card. You can't sign for another person. There's so many things wrong with that travel voucher, Uh, it just screams an intentional fabrication of evidence to create an alibi for Dallas Hart. And the thing is who is Richard's platoon leader? Dallas Hart has the rank first lieutenant, right? And we have witnesses that make him Richard's platoon leader. And the irregularities of them wiping everything and him wiping his whole service off of his social media, off of the internet, is also very, very strange and indicative that they're trying to hide something. So this is very clear that those things need to be answered, and he would have to attach to that electronically his orders. Where is his orders? That would be a simple, simple way to create an alibi, and yet we don't have his orders, just this travel voucher. And, so does it matter that he was Richard's platoon leader? Yes, it does. Is it super important? Uh, well, because of what we're finding out about CID's involvement in Richard's murder, in the place that Richard was murdered, this whole thing with the arms room, whose arms room was it? Also, the tactical move storage unit, what was in that? Where was that in reference to the arms room? Whose arms room was it? And what people were involved there, who witnessed it, and also the Van Buren situation, also the 2000. We know that uh, James Hart owned a 2004 Pontiac Montana. We know who that was sold to. We know we have that. We have that. We know. So that is obstruction of justice. That person, that lady, she's in trouble now because she's lying, right? She's lying. And so I want to reach out to her on this live stream and say, don't do that. Don't do that. You might not like me. You might not like my son. You might really love Leilani. But don't do that, because the domino effect of this for the future is so devastating, so destructive. Why would you want to have that as your legacy of a person? Standing, going on your deathbed, going in front of God and saying, "Oh yeah, I got to destroy people." Why would you want that as a legacy? I got to lie in a murder case, yeah, get away with it. Why would you want that? It's like, and I'm thinking of all these people like Jay Paulin. I'm thinking of all these people like Captain David Park. I'm thinking of Michael Ruggiero. Why would you want to be that? Like, are you a witch? Are you part of this cult? Are you thinking it's, that the devil's going to have mercy on you? The devil doesn't have any mercy. The devil likes death. He likes lies. And the devil is a creature. He's a creature. He doesn't create anything. He's a creature. He's made. Why are you worshiping a creature? So, and this is the problem. This is the problem. Uh, but good news, very good news, and I think that's why I'm getting some zip and vim and vigor uh, in my live streams again, um, because we know that this is cracking, because we're getting Bill Hicks, that's the DA. We're getting the MPs on Fort Bliss. We're getting the veterans. They're getting sick of this. And now look at Congress. They got sick of Kevin McCarthy. And this is to the detriment of the Republican Party, that the Republicans did this. See, because people are like, oh, the Republicans, what are they doing? They're ousting, first time in history, their speaker, you know, but they're getting sick of it. They're taking these risks. And they're even talking about nominating President Trump for Speaker of the House. Whoa! That's really happening. That's not me making things up. But they did get rid of Kevin McCarthy because he wasn't delivering. He was serving foreign and domestic enemies. He was caring too much about Ukraine, about fulfilling this gravy train for these contractors, for these leadership leaders in these high places, this class warfare. This is a class warfare. They get this gravy train and they have their investments in that gravy train, and they want billions of dollars going through, getting funneled through with this. Oh, we're so benevolent to Ukraine while we're bombing the heck out of them, destroying all kinds of buildings and lives and infrastructure and everything that is old. Some of it's so old that, it's historical. How would you like it if someone came and bombed our historical sites? And yet they're destroying a country to fulfill a gravy train, to fill that coffer up, that coffer gravy train. And it's not helping. It's not helping. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. So, where we have so much information now. Do we know that Richard was murdered? Yes. The Department of State just recently told us we've got their help, saying absolutely Richard's remains were found in Mexico. Was his remains also found in the United States? Yes. Why? Because they dismembered him, because they did not want another Guillen. We have the Department of State saying that Richard was a code red, and that was said by Leilani. That was Leilani's first statement. Richard was a code red. She was a few good men. A few good men, what happened to Richard was like in A Few Good Men. And I think it was worse because Richard went through months of being smeared, his good name smeared, his reputation smeared to make him not credible as a whistleblower, as a witness to their crimes. And then they, just went out on a let's destroy this soldier that doesn't like our sex cult, that doesn't like our drug profits, that doesn't like us having, 14-year-old girls living in the barracks being prostituted out, that doesn't like these young mothers being convinced by us that they should get in front of horny men and get naked, right? At what? Dreams Cabaret. So we also did get a name of someone that put in a criminal complaint about Dallas Hart, and so we'll let you know about that. That's huge breaking news that's coming out. And let's see what else. At this time, this Laura Stevens, Provencio Holquin. That's coming out too. And, people are just getting sick and tired of our country being on decline. It's that spiraling downward into the abyss where there is screaming and crying and gnashing of teeth. And they don't want to go there. Look at DC. Look at, people are getting hijacked, carjacked or whatever. They're getting forced to poison themselves. They're it's yeah. So the other day I said it was FDA and it was CDC. Um, they don't they have no trust anymore. They've broken the trust. And our generals, in my case, and I think I can speak to a lot of people in Team Find Richard Halliday, for a lot of people in Team Find Richard Halliday, the generals, the military, has broken our trust. They don't have our trust, and um, the uniforms have our respect, but those criminals, they need to be stripped. We need our uniforms back. They are not worthy to wear our uniforms and our stars and our stripes. They are not. And they even have fallen for the moral hazard of using funds that are meant for true disabled veterans to profit out, to profit. And that is, yeah. And I understand about PTSD. I understand. But we cannot break our country. There's, yeah, the gravy train. Uh, it really is causing class warfare. This is definitely class warfare. So, all right. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, Anicia, Danielle, Patty, thank you so much for your love, for your prayers. And we are just very, very grateful for you to listen to this, because it's not. Today was very hopeful. I mean, you hear all the terrible things that I have to report, but I'm telling you, the veterans are coming forward, the MPs are coming forward, the Department of State is coming forward, the Federal Criminal Database, the FBI, those good guys in the FBI that are not the leadership, okay? They're coming forward. It's just like the NCIS that my dad, RIP dad, when Richard went missing right at the beginning, and they threw us out. They absolutely threw Richard off the rolls, and didn't want anything to do with us, and we had nowhere to go, no jurisdiction. And my dad went into the NCIS because, of course, he lived in Portsmouth, big Navy place. And the guy called me up in Florida and said, this is my name, and I'm with the NCIS, and your dad came in to see me, and I want to help you. I want to help you. And I just broke down and cried. Well, I was crying all the time then. Anyway, look at my live streams. I was crying all the time. It's just so, hell week, absolutely hell year the first year, and it's still hell year, right? Um, but just that he goes, ma'am, I didn't mean to make you cry. And I'm like, no, you didn't make me cry. I'm just so happy that someone absolutely said, I want to help you. I want to help. And I really appreciate that. And he gave us a lot of good information. He did what he could. And I'll be forever grateful to him. Um, and I won't forget him for being the first in the military to say, I want to help. Genuinely. Genuinely. So there are some really great service members, and they don't deserve the betrayers as their chain of command. They don't deserve as their commander um, those that do nothing, that sit on their thumbs when they have the power. Like Major General Eisenhower, he has the power to do so much, and he has been convinced that he doesn't, but he does. You see, They are intimidated. They are feared into lockstepping. And, and they are afraid. They're afraid of losing that class situation. And I'm going to tell you, more and more people are getting very brave. And so pray for Major General Eisenhower that he will be one of them, that he will turn, that he'll wake up in the morning and he'll say, okay, today's the day. I'm going to stand for something. I'm going to stand for my duty for Fort Bliss, for the service members there at Fort Bliss. And I'm going to make things happen. And I'm going to make their lives better, cuz he can make their lives better overnight. He has that much power. We gave it to him. He has 2 stars on his beautiful uniform. He could do it. So pray for him. So, miracles happen. Miracles happen. Um, and, pray for Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. Because our service members, they've suffered. And look at Richard. That last video, he was crying in it. Richard didn't cry. He didn't cry. I'm telling you, he just didn't cry. I had it. There was no disciplining him in the normal way. All of this other talk is kind of nonsense when you absolutely know the situation, because he didn't cry and he couldn't be moved. He was just, you know, Robert too. Robert's the same way. And, I could look at Allison, and she'd start crying. I could say, I'm disappointed in you, or, her father could say that and she'd start crying. Um, but Richard and Robert, I had a tomato steak, Richard. That was the name I gave it. I was like, Richard, all right, I'm tomato steaking you. You have to be with me all the time. It's like, oh no, Mom. No. Yep. And you have to be with me all the time. That's your restriction. So yeah, anyway. Okay. If an individual is found guilty after retirement, will they be stripped of their retirement if criminal acts occurred while enlisted? Or is their retirement their scapegoat? Um, there is no what do you call that law where the time runs out with a murder case. What is that called, Danielle? Um, so I would think that that would be in the UCMJ also, that they can escape by just retiring, like Thomas Kane did, right? Thomas Kane wanted to escape because of retiring, but oh no, things are really, because he's involved in this. Look, all the people involved. Let's think about this. Thomas Kane, totally connected with CID. Marlon Soto, the CID chief, right? Um, and Ogle, absolutely involved with CID. Tavita Nusa, CID. Um, is Danae Katzen? Was she? Uh, did she have an affiliation with CID? I believe she did. Okay, Richard, CID intern. Do I believe that? Absolutely, absolutely. Why hasn't Park University got back to us? They could. It's kind of like this Dallas Hart thing. You know, hey, this is easy peasy lemon squeezy. Give us your information, right? Give us your information. Oh my gosh, I accidentally followed her and now she looked me up. What am I to do? That's the main guy for PAO, for public affairs for Park University. I mean, my goodness, this is a missing soldier. Park University is so, wow. Wow. And do I know that Richard wanted to be CID? We have the paperwork. And does he have to have some kind of prerequisite to be a CID intern? No, he just has to have like was Jay Paulin affiliated with CID? I believe he was. So you have CID, 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 and then you have Leilani Hart, and we have other names. We have other names from a CPS person that was involved with CID, right? That wanted to get into law enforcement. That is connected to Van Buren. We have the prosecutor that's connected to all of this, right? I mean, I'm going to drop these names. We have Laura Stevens, Provencio Holguin. I hope I'm saying that right. Um, you know, is she involved in JAG Legal, Park University? Yeah, we need some clarity on that one. We're still running that clarity. So this CID connection, being at CID, being involved in everybody that's CID, absolutely in this case. Absolutely. And them hiding things about Marlon Soto and what that's all coming out. So, yeah, and they think that hiding things is good to let crime continue. They think that's good for the well-being of our service members and our national security, but it's not. How can you have morale, esprit de corps, when all you're doing is covering up for pedophiles and criminal enterprises, right? So, yeah, no statute of limitations. Exactly. There's no statute of limitations with murder. Thank you so much for helping me. The recording sounds forced, in my opinion, by the sound of his voice. Or is there a retirement there, scapegoat? The recording sounds forced, in my opinion. What recording is that? Of Richard? Oh yeah. Um, I know that he definitely, when he apologizes and he's crying, he's afraid for his life. He was too stubborn for that. So definitely afraid for they were definitely breaking him, and I think he stood really well under that kind of pressure. He's my hero. He's my hero. No criminal record at all. No criminal record. And Leilani Hart has over 20 incidences on Fort Bliss alone. Over 20. It might be 30. It might be 30. They're saying they lost count. After 20, they lost count. It's so many. And Major General Eisenhower is using her, a convicted criminal, to obstruct justice in his soldier's case. Yeah, that's frustrating. That's pretty frustrating. His apology, yeah. No statute, yeah. Absolutely. Okay, everyone. Yeah, he was. I haven't even published that. He was, who knows if it was leaked or whatever, but he was scared, and it was not a pretty video. Not like, when he's burning his money. They gave that to me thinking I'd be mad, and I was like, "Oh, that was a good video. I liked that." I don't know who they think we are. I really don't. They have misjudged us, as the Halliday family. They've misjudged Richard. They've misjudged my husband. They misjudged Team Farm Richard Halliday. And we're pretty flexible, but not when it comes to the level of crime hurting children, hurting the level of crime that they are involved in and taking advantage. Just the gravy train to me is they will do anything. They will kill people for it. So, the financial crimes are huge because the domino effect from them is so devastating. So, anyway. Okay, well, thank you so much, everybody. And yeah, we're burning the midnight oil, but it's not as late as sometimes. So, thank you so much. Please share and please, and I forgot to mention this straight on, please sign the petition for the soldier. We did get verification from the veterans that they are passing that around. I haven't looked at it today, but sign the petition, campaign for the petition to just surround this soldier with protection, with prayers, with the more people that does that, the more protection he will have. And he is standing strong, very strong, in his request for a congressional inquiry. So that's really, really important to do. Okay, thank you so much. God bless you.